I see Keri Russell on a Netflix series, I'm watching. Let's talk The Diplomat. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to the channel. Political intrigue, dialogue, Keri Russell. If you like all of those things, you may just like The Diplomat today. We're going to talk about it spoiler-free. Let's do it. So in the midst of an international crisis, Kate, a career diplomat, lands in a high-profile job for which she was not suited, with tectonic implications for her marriage and political future. This series is rated TV mature. I say mostly for the cursing and adult themes. Older teenagers could probably watch this show, but they may end up being bored. It is a show that revolves around the dialogue, like I said earlier, the political intrigue, and Keri Russell's performance. And let's start there. She is the focus we knew she would be, and she is spectacular in this role. She's everything you want a main, compelling character who ends up in a situation that she does not expect herself to be in. It's everything you need from Kate, and the relationship with her husband, played by Rufus Sewell, who also does a great job. Every time they get in an argument in this series, specifically in the first few episodes, it's entertaining. It's slightly hilarious when they go about it in the right way. I think of one scene in particular where they're arguing and it getting a little physical and the Secret Service is watching from afar. And in a lot of other TV shows, a moment like that would be taken seriously and to the point where you just don't get any humor out of the situation. It just feels unnatural at that point. But in The Diplomat, they know when to find the humor in a situation. They know when to cut back on taking themselves so seriously. And in a way, it doesn't feel like a Netflix show. In a way, it feels like a show you're watching on TNT. 'Cause I'm TNT. Even though the budget's clearly higher, it looks a little better. I think the filmmaking's really great. But it has that snappy, witty dialogue that feels like it's working really well because it's episodic, even though on Netflix you're most likely binging it. But I think that's going to work for a lot of people who are focused on the plot and the dialogue. It's a very dense show. It's a dense screenplay. There's a lot going on, but you're kind of in a series like this for the political intrigue. So most likely if you're watching and you're invested, you are paying attention. So I think this show knows its audience. It knows how to approach this type of dialogue. I mean, a little bit of Aaron Sorkin. I don't want to throw out the biggest and best compliment you can give, but I think of some of the more recent Sorkin films, and that kind of script that just knows how to get its audience invested. It creates and manufactures drama, stakes, and relationships that will keep you compelled all throughout the series, and honestly, that's how I felt while watching The Diplomat. Now, this comes to us from Debora Cahn, who has worked on series such as The West Wing, Grey's Anatomy, HOMELAND, and now Cahn is the creator of yet another similar kind of daunting series that may expect too much from certain audience members. You may be watching this and saying, I'm not that invested in the politics of it all. I'm not that invested in what they're talking about as much as I am who they are and who Keri Russell plays in this series. She, in my opinion, is more fascinating than the drama, but as someone who, if I can get invested and kind of fully appreciate the layered complexity of it all, the details that they're diving into, the geopolitical buzzwords that, they're all throughout the show. So there were some things they were talking about. I'm like, I don't necessarily know why you're saying what you are, but I know what you're talking about, if that makes sense.
What you talking about, Will?
And I mentioned those network television series a while ago. I shouldn't have said TNT. I should have said something along the lines of FX or maybe even HBO. I mean, this doesn't fully feel like an HBO show. I just think the dialogue is so much more complex, and I'm not trying to diss Netflix here, but often you get a series like this and you expect it to be something more than what it actually is. But The Diplomat, it has that complexity. It runs through that complexity. It starts with our main character, who's an ambassador. She's sent off to her next international outpost, except she doesn't necessarily know why. Why? She doesn't want to be a diplomat. There are expectations from the American governments, from the British governments. Everyone's trying to form these relationships, and she's just kind of caught in the middle going, why am I meant to play this part? Why do I have to? I mean, I have to, but why? Why? But then there's her husband, who's an ambassador. So you have drama in the White House, you have drama at home, and Hal's motivations are drastically different than Kate's. And so you have two people that are together romantically, sort of. They're always fighting well, not always, but they're fighting a lot, like I said. But then politically, you have just drastically different ideas and motivations, and so that creates kind of the complexity of what this show is. You have the diplomat portion, and then you have everything going on at home, which isn't actually going on at home. It's going on in these government facilities. And this quick and snarky lingo, along with the supporting cast, some of them are frustrating not from an acting standpoint, but from a character standpoint. Specifically supporting roles, you have someone like a Rory Kinnear, Ollie On. I could go on for days. I think they are really good. Not to the degree of Russell, but honestly, who is. My only big concern with this series, outside of what I've already said, is the fact that it's a tough one to truly get invested into because, like I said before, it's not a background watch. It's not a show you can throw on and just kind of mosey through and in 2 episodes be like, well, I'm invested in these characters even though I wasn't paying attention. No, it's one you have to pay attention to. But again, if you're watching a series like The Diplomat, if you're enjoying the first episode, I think you will get invested. And it's one of those shows that will keep you on edge every time you're going from one big plot point to the other. A big complaint that some people are going to have is the final episode, there is a bit of a cliffhanger. So I really hope this show does well, because if that cliffhanger doesn't carry over and this doesn't get renewed for another season, then I'm going to look at this ending and talk about how frustrating it was because we never got more. So let's hope The Diplomat does well. I would love to see more. I was invested. Before I give you my score, if you want to support this review, the best way to do that would be by dropping that thumbs up button down below. I appreciate it. Helps the channel. And The Diplomat combines a fantastic lead performance with a dense yet interesting political story. It may take a lot of investment from viewers, but the result is worth it. This is a really solid series that I think is worth watching this weekend. A lot of good television this year, though, man. Succession and Barry, this, The Last of Us. I'm feeling good about my end of the year list. Thank you guys so much for watching. More reviews to come. Evil Dead Rises, Beau is Afraid. We're going to do it. I feel confident.